If you are a software engineer and you need a way to smoothly manage your dev and application runtime for the various applications you are developing, you need to see this. Stay tuned. Don't be a stranger. Click the subscribe button and like this video because what we are about to discuss is a great time saver. One of the daily hurdles in the life of a developer is constantly switching their development environment to cater for specific requirements of their various applications they are developing. I've been through this and trust me, it's not fun, especially when you need to make a quick change to a code base and realize that the runtime requirement mismatch with your current system setup. As an average software engineer with nearly a decade years of experience who has worked on several enterprise projects for corporations, freelancing gigs, and even personal projects, I know it's a real pain having to deal with mismatch in software requirement and needing to tear down or install your system setup to build another one for a specific application need. You have no other option than to start on installing the current runtime and reinstalling the specific version of the runtime the application needs. Dev environment takes time, and to me, it's not a good productive use of time and effort, especially when you know you might have to destroy it later to reinstall another runtime version for another application. No two applications are exactly the same. Even if they perform the same function, the underlying technology, framework, or infrastructure that enables those functionality differ greatly. Software applications are different on many grounds, even the ones written in the same programming language and framework. We still have to use maybe different version of environment, runtime environment for them to run. For instance, I code in Node.js a lot and I've developed many backend applications using Node.js and Express.js and also front-end using React, Vue, Nuxt.js, Astro.js, and many more. Applications developed in Node.js have specific Node.js runtime requirements for them to run. Node.js have versions. Currently, the latest version is 20. Some applications might depend on version 18 to run, which means they might not run with Node version 20. If a developer has latest version 20 set up on a system and intending to run an application code base with requirement for Node version 18, issues will arise. It's either the project is upgraded to use the Node version 20 if it can, or the developer will reset up his system with Node version 18. The latter is usually the safest route in order not to disrupt the code base and other collaborators. I know things are a little bit straightforward in Node.js compared to other programming languages and frameworks. In fact, there is a new tool I've used in the past which works great. It's called MVM, that's Node Version Manager. This tool helps me to quickly switch between Node.js version. I can switch from version 18 to version 20 and vice versa to any version of Node.js as far as I've installed it on my system before. What about other programming language that doesn't have this kind of tooling? I mean, most other programming languages, frameworks, and app runtime does not have this type of tooling or privilege, if I may.
You may proceed. My lord, if I may.
And here is where I introduce you to a nifty tool called ASDF, the Multiple Runtime Version Manger. ASDF is a single tool to manage different programming language and frameworks in one place. It's like MVM, but for multiple programming languages and frameworks, not just Node.js alone. You can use it to manage Node.js, Rust, Go, Python, Zip, and other programming language, even toolings like Kubectl, Terraform, the list goes on. It has a plugin system which enables this to be possible, and you can also write your own if there is none provided by the community. Now, it's time to install ASDF. Even though there are a couple of ways to install ASDF, if you go to the documentation page, there are a couple of ways to install ASDF, but the recommended approach is by using Git. So for you to use Git, you must have Git installed. You can check if you have this installed here. If you don't have it installed, you can do sudo apt install Git and also call. You might need that as well. So since I already have it installed, so I don't need to install that. So you type in this command. So this command you use to install ASDF. Once you type that, it will install ASDF, and that's it. It has installed ASDF. The next thing to do is to set up ASDF for use. So the setting up ASDF depends on the kind of bash you are using. So there are a couple of different ways you can use to install it and set it up. So for me, I'm using a bash shell. So if you want to know the type of shell you are using, you do this. You can see. So if you are using a bash shell, you use this. If you are using ZSH or some other fish or some other shell, so you go to the documentation page and copy. So you are going to copy this command and use it. So you open your bash.rc. I'm going to do nano.bashrc file. Then I'm going to scroll to the bottom and paste in this command. And also there is the other leg of it. So you copy the completion command as well. You paste in. So once you do that, you save it. Then you can source or open a new terminal. So I'm just going to source this. Now if I do ASDF -f now, you can see and I have ASDF installed. So after you have set up ASDF, the next thing you want to do is to install a plugin. Now the plugin are the application runtime that you want to install. So it could be Node.js, Python, Rust, or even Kubectl or any other application runtime. So there are a host number of plugins to choose from. So if you go to this page, you can see this is the repository that contains the list of plugins, and you can also write your own if you can't find your plugin, your application runtime here. You can also write your own. So for this tutorial, I will be using Node.js as an example. So I'll go to the Node.js plugin. Then I'll copy the command to install Node.js plugin. So then I can now use it to install. So that's the command to install Node.js. Now Node.js has been installed. So if you want to confirm the plugins that have been installed, you can do ASDF plugin list. So if you list, you can see I just installed Node.js. Now after installing Node.js plugin, so you want to install a version of Node.js. So for now, I'm just going to install the latest version of Node.js. ASDF install Node.js latest. So this latest should be version 22 thereabout. So it's version 22.4. So now I can now do. So I've installed version 22. So now that I have installed Node.js plugin, so I can confirm that with Node.js plugin list. So I have Node.js installed, and I have installed the latest version of Node.js, which is version 22. So I can confirm that with ASDF Node.js ASDF list Node.js. So you can see I have version 22 installed. So if I want to see all the available version of Node.js, including the one on remote, so I'll go do ASDF list all Node.js. So it's going to put all the versions of Node.js which I can choose from. So for example, let's choose to install version 14. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy. Then I'm going to do ASDF install Node.js, then this version of Node.js. So it's going to install version 14 for me. And it's going to take a while, so let me just skip the video. Okay, now Node.js version 14 has been installed. So if I want to confirm that, I can do ASDF list Node.js. Now I should have 2 versions of Node.js installed, and that's it. And that's how to install a plugin and different versions of a plugin. So now the next thing we're going to do now is to set a version for our runtime, and in this case Node.js. Now if you remember, we installed 2 versions of Node.js. We installed the latest version, which is version 22.4, and also version 14. So now let's set version 32.4 as the default for now. Later we can switch. I'll show you how to switch between them. There are two methods to set a version for a runtime. It's either you install set it globally or locally. So if you set it globally, it's going to be applicable to all projects across the system. And if you set it locally, that will be applicable to a per project basis. So I'm going to show you the two methods to do that. So in order to do that, you do ASDF global, the name of your plugin, then the version you want to set to. So it can be a number or latest if you have used latest. Now, two things will happen here once I run this command. It's going to set the version number and it's going to generate a .2 version file inside the home directory. So we're going to see that in a moment. So it has been run. So now to confirm the current version, we're going to do ASDF current version of Node.js. So you can see it has set version 22 and it has created a file here. So we can nano into the file and see what is in the file. So this is the file that contains details about the versions of plugins that are being maintained. Also, let's switch to a different version of Node.js. ASDF global Node.js. I can type the thing here. So if I do this, you can see now I'll be able to switch to version 14, and that's how you switch between different versions on the global level. So you want to do that on the local level. So instead of using global, you use ASDF local Node.js, then you put latest. So this will be applicable to the directory you are running the command in. Don't be a stranger. Click the subscribe button and like this video.